No! The gentle caress of my lover was cruelly replaced by rough hands and harsh words as we were torn apart. In seconds I was dragged from the darkened room through sunlit streets and shadows to what I expected to be my death, at the same hands that now held me, vice-like, to my fate. Stony hands and stony faces would find their satisfaction in stoning me to death. And why? Because I had transgressed their hypocritical law? Because I had been caught, and not without some betrayal? Because I was a woman? Because my sin was so much worse or blatant or personal than theirs? I mourned the loss of my lover and my freedom, both ripped from my life, which now also lay in tatters, soon to be disposed of, like waste, according to the law which exercised a cruel justice, imposed by those more concerned with the imposition of impossible standards than the reason for them. Shock soon gave way to anger and fear as I realised I was about to be made a public example. I'd been close to such executions before. I'd heard the frenzied crowd, the soft thud and crackle of the stones, and the brief, desperate cries of the victims. But I'd never wanted to watch. I don't know why. Perhaps I identified too much with the woman bleeding and battered to death, even before I myself became guilty of her crime. So lost had I become in my anger and thoughts that I hadn't noticed we weren't heading outside the town, but deeper into it. This wasn't right. Where were they taking me? Suddenly we approached a crowd which parted to let me and my accusers through, and I was thrown to the ground before a young rabbi, who was apparently as surprised as I at this unexpected interruption. My presence seemed to annoy the crowd, but there was no obvious response from him. He was addressed with venom by my accusers. Here she is, caught in the very act of adultery. The law says she must die. What do you say? Who was on trial here? I sensed that attention was now being fixed firmly on this man, who still did not reply to their question. He seemed distracted, upset by something more than my caught-in-the-act appearance. Glancing at me as he lowered his eyes to the sand, he began to scribble with his finger. Our eyes met, and I could see a tremendous sadness in him, a sadness which seemed to make the weight of my predicament even heavier. I felt that I had hurt him, offended him, personally, not because I'd been caught, but because I had disappointed him on a level deeper than the physical, deeper than the mere human. But there was something else. Along with my sense of failure, I also saw in his eyes a compassion I had not met before, certainly not in any other judge. I believed that he loved me, but not because of my body or my mind. He loved me for who I am, because I was a person, a soul, if you like. This was a new love. Many times I'd given my body and lost my mind in the search for love. But here was love which had a quality far beyond anything I'd ever experienced, and it seemed to be searching for me. But it didn't demand my subjection, although it overwhelmed me. It didn't expect any favours, although I found myself wanting to respond in some way. It was just there, in front of me, personified in this young rabbi. Was I dreaming? The crowd was impatient for an answer. They could sense the drama of the situation. Free entertainment was always a welcome distraction for them, and here was something you don't see every day. Established religion against the word of a single young rabbi with me as the prize. He continued to disturb the sand with his finger like he was creating something out of the dust. He looked at me once more and then said quietly, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." The effect was immediate. The silence was deafening. The shouting evaporated. There was no counter-argument. I looked up and around at the men who minutes ago were convinced of their right to put me to death. One by one, I heard stones being dropped, each muffled sound like a reluctant confession, but a public statement nevertheless. I had no rock, but I wished I too could have got rid of my guilt as easily. I looked back to the young rabbi. If anyone had the right to condemn me, it was he. He seemed incapable of doing wrong, if that were possible. He spoke once more, directly to me this time. "Woman, where are your accusers?" The crowd was dispersing. This was not the entertainment they had expected. They had become the uncomfortable celebrities. The light was shining on them, and they wanted to get back into the shadows of their daily lives. "There is no one, sir," I replied. "Then neither do I condemn you," he said. "Go, and do not sin again." Instead of the stones, I was being pounded with words directed with more power, enough to break my very heart. I stood convicted by these words, but the penalty was not passed to me. He was offering me life and a reason to live, not for myself anymore, but for him and what he stood for: compassion, justice, truth, and a different kind of love. As we left that place, I glanced down at the sand beneath his feet and saw just 2 lines crossing each other. I know the religious leaders got their revenge not long afterwards. They crucified my master despite his obvious innocence. I watched him die with forgiveness on his lips, and I knew he died my death, the death he set me free from. I could see he was carrying my sin, my pain, and my punishment. But now he's alive. I and my brothers and sisters have seen him, along with many others, and it's so wonderful being able to speak with him on the other side of the cross, where now we can meet as friends and share perfect joy. It's my job now to tell others about him, this Jesus who set me free.